Mistress Vania Changes Jobs, Episode 11. Amanda drew a fish on her shorthand pad. It was heavily inspired by the cubism school of art, and was done entirely in blue ballpoint. The fact that Rake could achieve the exulted position of police detective in Hapten-Shufti was a poor reflection on the town. The police were set apart from the general public. The nature of the job made it that way, and as a journalist you expected to meet your fair share of weirdos. The overlap between the two groups in the form of Detective Rake was making Amanda's article more difficult to write. Hapten-Shufti was still a complete mystery to her. She had lived all over the country. All of the other places she had visited seemed to follow some basic rules. How different could Hapten-Shufti be from the rest of them? As further proof of her lack of understanding, the story about the opening of the Lexus dealership was a great success. This all came down to the photograph and the quotes from the jockey Nick Dunn. Hits on the paper's site, and that story in particular, spiked significantly. This made Horace very happy. Amanda saw it differently. It showed how low the bar of success was set, assuming you could find the bar. In her opinion, the local population was unpredictable in their tastes. With her fish drawing finished and Detective Rake's interview submitted, she checked her emails. There were around 9 emails from Horace asking for more Nick Dunn articles. The selling of advertising on the Nick Dunn buys a Lexus story had earned the paper more revenue than all the other stories combined for that day. Nick Dunn had taken a trip to France, presumably to ride in a horse race, although no one knew for sure. Amanda considered Horace's suggestion of interviewing people who knew Nick Dunn, or even do some "What does Nick Dunn mean to you?" but her heart could not bear the thought of grinding out such journalistic slop. She picked up her phone and called Horace. "Horace," said Amanda, "it's me." "Hello, me," said Horace cheerfully, still buoyed by the increase in advertising revenue. "Got me any other Nick Dunn stories?" "No," said Amanda. "I have something better. More interesting for me, at least, since Missing Persons Day is coming up soon." "Missing Persons Day is 8 months away," said Horace. "If it's within 12 months, then it's coming soon," said Amanda. "I was figuring I'd write a little story, inviting readers to write in about people who are missing. We could then publish the stories, and I'd do a little legwork and see if I can find out what happened to them." "I did something similar a few years ago," said Horace, not sounding convinced. "For some strange reason, all I got was women who believed their husbands had gone to Argentina, where they were immediately murdered. Most of the people were missing because they didn't really like the people who were looking for them, and the people who were looking for them were invariably members of their own family. But don't let me discourage you, especially if it keeps the gear wheels turning in your head and gives you hope of a real story." "Good," said Amanda. "I'll take that as your official approval of the idea." Mistress Vania and Rico sat drinking coffee at a table by the window. There was a pleasant view of the garden. If they had listened carefully, they would have heard Roger's moans from the cellar. If they did hear anything, they both chose to ignore it. "Beating him and punishing him won't make him thin," said Rico, cutting a little cupcake into 4 segments. "Not feeding him will make him thin," said Mistress Vania. "But that's not going to stop him from getting fat again when we release him. Punishing was just to set the tone of the relationship. He has a misplaced superior attitude that we have to crush straight away. This is all new. We must try things and see what works. There is the mineral wrap. I'm interested to see how it works on someone so large, although I am in favor of the idea of giving him food that he likes, but that is bad for him. Then we punish him for eating it. He seems mostly to eat pizza. If we can associate pizza with pain, then he will stop wanting to eat it." "How will we punish him?" asked Rico. "It would have to be something cruel," said Mistress Vania. You can use the dynamo and the nipple clamps if you want." Rico smiled. She loved the dynamo. It was very old, and so engaging. It had a little handle that you could crank. The harder you cranked, the more power it generated. "What are we having for dinner?" asked Mistress Vania. Mistress Vania never said what she wanted for dinner. Rico was expected to know and then provide it. "Sea bass, steamed with shallots and chilies," said Rico. "When I went to the supermarket, there were many people interested in our car." "Oh," said Mistress Vania, picking up her tablet computer. "This Nick Dunn jockey person is a nuisance. We may need to consider another car. But changing cars is inconvenient at the present time. It's a pain that Hapten-Shufti has its own paper. I thought all provincial papers had gone broke. Here it is online. The article was written by some plain woman called Amanda Frost. There is a thumbnail picture of her, with a byline." There was a moment of silence, only punctuated by Roger's distant groaning. "This Amanda Frost is a problem," said Mistress Vania. "I searched for her name on the internet. I'm not sure what she's doing writing for the Hapten-Shufti Standard, but she was an investigative journalist with one of the major papers, and she's just written an article about Missing Persons Week. Are you searching for friends or loved ones? I don't like the sound of that." "Do you think Roger will be reported missing?" asked Rico. "Even annoying fat people have some human connections," said Mistress Vania after a moment's consideration. "I was relying on local police ignoring Roger's disappearance for at least a month. It would be very inconvenient if the press made a story of it." "Should I order a pizza?" asked Rico. "3 large pizzas," said Mistress Vania. "That should give us enough to work with." Grant Stoat had not forgotten his first encounter with the 2 women. He found Mistress Vania very interesting, and certainly attractive for a woman of her age. Yet Mistress Vania was not on his mind. She was too old by his standards. For this pizza delivery guy, Rico had become the only game in town. Grant Stoat was infatuated with Rico. Because she was petite, he mistook her for a woman who was cute and fun. Like many men, Stoat overestimated his attractiveness to women. He did not know that he smelt like a sick pet. As a pretext for visiting Rico again, Stoat went about accumulating more lists of fat customers. Since this was what they wanted, he believed more of the same would be sure to please them. Stoat had also made sure any deliveries to that house would certainly come to him. There was only one other delivery guy. He needed to think of somewhere classy to take Rico. His idea of a good night out was 4 pints of beer and a basket of scampi. This would not impress Rico. He could not ask her out to a nightclub. Hapten-Shufti had only one nightclub, which was run by the local council. Patrons were often given fact sheets on how to dance without risk of injuring themselves or others on the dance floor. Safe dancing. It is up to all of us. 3 years ago it was voted the most drug-free nightclub by the National Union of Ambulance Drivers. Stoat decided on his plan. He would ask Rico out on a date. He looked at the 3 pizzas in their insulated bag. This was his chance to get a quality girlfriend who was not from Hapten-Shufti. When Rico saw Stoat was the person delivering the pizzas, she was reluctant to open the door. She did not fear Stoat, but she did find him odious. On his previous visit he had looked sour and surly. This time he was smiling to himself. Far from an improvement, Rico felt this made him look even more odious. "How's it doing?" said Stoat. "I have been waiting for a pizza," said Rico, offering him the payment. Stoat wanted a little more small talk, so he could work up to his real point of being there. Unfortunately, Rico was single-minded in her opinion of why Stoat was standing in the doorway. He was there to deliver pizza. "That 3rd pizza you ordered," said Stoat. "We don't normally get anyone ordering those. The fully vegan lentil pizza supreme with capers and artichokes. I had to look up how to make it. No cheese." "We wanted no fat," said Rico, shortly, but by way of explanation. "I was wondering if you—" said Stoat, pausing awkwardly. "Maybe you and me. It's just that, you know, The Chiropractic and Dental Health Expo is on at the conference centre. I thought you might be interested in going, you and me together." This was a real step up for Stoat. The Chiropractic and Dental Health Expo was, in his view, the last word in sophistication. "When I was in North Africa travelling, I ran out of money," said Rico, taking the pizzas and handing Stoat some cash. "I was forced to work as an assistant to a travelling dentist. One day, while working on a patient, the dentist died. There were still 15 patients waiting for treatment. I had to take his place and perform dentistry on all of them. It was a bad experience." Stoat was struggling to respond when the door closed in his face. Rico gave him a good tip, but it did not make up for Stoat's strong feelings of rejection. Mistress Vania took a slice of the fully vegan lentil pizza. She bit a small piece off the end. After chewing it thoughtfully for a moment, she handed the rest of it to Rico. Discreetly, Mistress Vania spat into a tissue rather than swallow what was in her mouth. "Consistent with its description," said Mistress Vania. "That is inedible. Fat is flavour, and there is no fat in that pizza." Rico swallowed her mouthful, but returned the slice to the box. "It's even worse than the couscous pizza I had on holiday," said Rico. "It is so bad. He must choose the healthy pizza over the nice pizza?" "Yes," said Mistress Vania. "Otherwise we will punish him. Punishment will help change his behaviour." "It is his behaviour that has made him fat in the first place. What we are doing is psychological?" asked Rico. "What we do has always been psychological," said Mistress Vania. "We are just applying it to a different purpose." Roger was still lying on the floor of the cellar. Still tied up, he was uncomfortable and wet, yet he was also far less distressed now that he was sure they did not want to harvest his kidneys. Loss of his organs had weighed heavily on his mind. With that threat out of the way, he felt he could deal with anything else that came his way. While Mistress Vania was punishing him, he reacted in panic. The beatings and the spankings stopped, and they left. There was no discussion between them. Mistress Vania put down her whip on the table and climbed the stairs. Taking this cue, Rico had followed her. The lights were turned off again, and Roger was left to think. Mistress Vania was in her 40s, but in Roger's opinion still had a smoking hot body. This was accentuated by her shiny black latex suit. In spite of himself, Roger found the whole experience exciting. There was pain, but there was also attention. He was their sole focus of attention. Their attention seemed to be more important to him than what they were actually doing. What they were doing was spanking, whipping, and slapping him. None of this caused permanent damage. Mistress Vania was a dominatrix. Roger was sure of this without knowing the absolute details of how these things worked. He had seen the occasional art film that had treated S&M as a subplot. Often a character in a film would prefer something a bit rough from a woman who knew how to be strict. Now Roger felt like he was in a film. He waited expectantly for what would happen next. Rico had held his attention for days. His impending first date had saturated his consciousness. Now he would close his eyes and see Mistress Vania standing over him as a black shiny figure in rubber set against the pale white skin of her face, arms, and cleavage. Had he been asked a few days earlier, he would have said a dominatrix meted out punishment with anger. Now he realized he was wrong. Mistress Vania delivered every blow with cruel indifference. Potentially the whole experience would combine to become erotic. Roger was not sure. It was too new. It might have been exciting because it was new. Regardless of how it really worked, Roger's mind had become fixated with Mistress Vania. Everything about her was fascinating. Her dispassionate attitude towards him made her like a nearby exotic island that he would never reach. The cellar door opened and the lights were turned on. Mistress Vania was wearing her latex suit again. Even before he saw the pizzas in their boxes, Roger could smell them. Rico came into view, carrying her 3 boxes stacked one on top of the other. Mistress Vania stood over Roger and viewed him as though he were a stain on a new carpet. "You're a dominatrix," said Roger excitedly. "People pay you to punish them." "Rich people pay me a lot of money to punish them," said Mistress Vania. "You, on the other hand, are getting the service for free. Food is now more erotic than sex itself. I am bored with my old clients. If you want to dominate someone, you control and subsume their desires. They desire you, but you deny them, and give them pain instead. But now food is the guilty pleasure. It is the new frontier. What greater challenge than to make fat people become thin, and keep them that way? Science has tried, psychology has tried, big business has tried. I will succeed to a greater extent than all of those who have come before me." "Ambitious," said Roger, "but whipping me won't make me thin." "Starving you will make you thin," said Mistress Vania, "but you would just go back to your old pizza-eating ways as soon as we let you go. I have something more permanent in mind." The table was cleared of whips and paddles. A chair that was in one corner was placed at the table. It was large, black, and made of a combination of durable materials. Rico had purchased it on the Internet, since it was made of super-strong alloy. According to the description, it was a chair suited to customers in the double plus-size weight range. Mistress Vania uncoiled a long leather bullwhip. Roger looked nervous. This was something to cause real damage rather than momentary pain. "Have you ever seen acts where someone gets the end of their cigarette cut from their lips?" asked Mistress Vania, holding the whip up high and letting it swing at its full length. "Yeah," said Roger nervously. "The principle can be applied to any part of the body," said Mistress Vania with a sneer. "Unless you want to lose something you consider very important, you will not try to escape when Rico unties your ropes." "Seriously," said Roger with a little attitude, "the floor is wet. I'm wet and naked down to my underwear. I'm 400 pounds. I run like a beanbag rolls, and there are 2 of you and 1 of me. The chances of me escaping are 0. I'm being held in a cellar by 2 smoking hot babes. Why would I want to escape from you and 3 pizzas?" Mistress Vania did not like this attitude. She had given him a good measure of cruel punishment, but already he was becoming irreverent. He should have been fearful. Mistress Vania was slightly worried that Roger was too stupid to realize when he ought to be frightened. Always she found she was coming back to the legions of idiots reared on the breast of the Internet. "Your relaxed attitude towards escaping may change after today," said Mistress Vania. Freed from his ropes, Roger's arms and legs were so stiff. Rico's Japanese rope master training meant that there was always allowance for circulation. Restriction of blood flow to the limbs was very dangerous. The Japanese had perfected bondage with ropes. Rico could inflict real pain safely. When Roger did not move, Rico took to him with a riding crop. Little red squares appeared on his now white and pruny flesh. These marks were redder and fresher than the earlier ones, which were already fading. This had no effect, and Roger remained lying on the floor. The aim was to get him into the chair. However, the combined effect of exhaustion and laziness could not be overcome by Rico's application of the whip. "These whips work on horses," said Rico angrily, whipping Roger again across his protruding stomach. "Why doesn't it work on you?" In a very non-dominatrix moment, Mistress Vania and Rico both took a hand each and tried to pull Roger to his feet. Unsteadily they guided him to the chair, where he collapsed. Rico tied Roger to the chair with loving attention to each knot. By design, Roger's mostly fat pectorals were accessible. They protruded through 2 lines of ropes that ran parallel to one another. The effect made Roger look like he had 2 large football-shaped breasts. Each nipple reminded Mistress Vania of valves for inflation. She watched Rico take 2 pieces of rope tied at each end, allowing skin and subcutaneous fat to be pushed through before the two pieces of rope were pulled tight and made to pinch. With further ropes, Rico finished the job by tying off the chair to metal rings that were set into the concrete floor. If Roger were to overturn the chair while bound to it, he could be seriously injured. Mistress Vania took 2 nipple clamps from a bottle of green solution. She attached them to Roger. In turn, wires were attached to the clamps and ran around behind Roger for a good length of 11 feet. Rico fastened the nipple clamps with medical tape. Mistress Vania attached the other ends of the wire to the dynamo. The bare ends were screwed down into black and red terminals. The dynamo itself was a black cylinder around 6 inches long, with a handle at one end which could be cranked. Roger noted with curiosity that his hands were free. Finally, his upper body was wrapped in a clear cling film from his armpits to his navel. There was no way he could remove the nipple clamps or the wires. Roger had a bad feeling about what was about to happen to him. However, at the same time, he was exhilarated by the amount of attention Mistress Vania and Rico were directing towards him. "What kind of crazy crap are you betches going to try now?" said Roger, smiling and trying to sound light-hearted and brave. Mistress Vania stared at him without any obvious expression on her face. Rico opened the pizza boxes. Inside was the supreme pizza and the lentil pizza. "What the hell is that thing?" asked Roger, pointing to the vegan pizza with its lentils and artichokes. "It looks like small forest animals have taken a crap on a pizza base and then someone cooked it. It doesn't even have any cheese. Not even that fake cheese." "It is the healthy pizza," said Mistress Vania with gravity. "It is the one that you are going to eat. Make the wrong choice and you will be punished. You must choose the healthy option, as fast food chains are inclined to call it, tasteless, fat-free food that appears on the menu but is never purchased." Roger's hunger was overwhelming him. Being a constant snacker, he could not remember the last time he had gone this long without any food. Seeing and smelling the supreme pizza, with all its cheese and fat and manufactured meat, made him forget his situation. Roger grabbed a handful of the supreme pizza, 2 slices at once. He crammed it into his mouth. "I warned you," said Mistress Vania, cranking the handle of the dynamo. Roger gave a spasm response as the current went down the wire and into the nipple clamps. She had given the handle 5 purposeful rotations. While she did this, the veins in his forehead protruded. Roger found it very painful, but it was not enough to stop him from chewing the tasty pizza. "Eat the healthy choice pizza," repeated Mistress Vania. Roger bit a slice of the healthy pizza and swallowed it with difficulty. "See," said Mistress Vania, "healthy choice means no punishment." Roger took another piece of the healthy pizza. This next slice seemed to be no easier to eat than the previous one. Determined, Roger kept eating until all the healthy pizza was gone. Rico glanced at Mistress Vania and could see she was very pleased with the result. This was going to be easier than they had thought. Before they could congratulate themselves with the healthy pizza eaten, Roger started again on the supreme pizza. He took 3 slices this time and folded them together like a sandwich. He chewed through this multi-layered of cheese, meat, and base. This was not what the 2 captors were expecting. It seemed to them implausible that one person could eat a whole large pizza. Attempting to eat 2 large pizzas, one of which was covered in lentils and artichokes, was simply ridiculous. Mistress Vania cranked the handle, but by now Roger was in a feeding frenzy. Not getting the result she wanted, Mistress Vania handed the dynamo to Rico, who loved the dynamo and would turn the handle with incredible ferocity. "Crank it," ordered Mistress Vania. "Take it to the maximum." Rico's arms, although thin and feminine, developed a muscular ripple when they exerted the load of winding the handle. She was incredibly strong for her small size. Roger howled with pain through a mouthful of pizza, but he did not stop eating. "Stop eating the unhealthy option," said Mistress Vania, her voice strong and commanding. A burning smell filled the air. It was a foul and unwholesome smell. Mistress Vania raised her hand as a sign for Rico to stop, but Rico was looking at Roger, who continued to eat handfuls of pizza. Mistress Vania reached out and took the dynamo from Rico's firm grip. "Take off the wrap and the clamps," said Mistress Vania, regaining her composure. "I can smell burning." Rico took some round-ended scissors and cut away the cling film plastic wrap. Then she removed the medical tape and the nipple clamps. The heat from the electricity had caused Roger's chest hair to burn. The tufts around his nipples were still smouldering. "He is irrational," said Mistress Vania to Rico. Her tone was almost alarmed, and this shook Rico's nerves. "It is not merely hunger that drives him. It is something deeper, something that I do not understand." She turned her back on Roger and ascended the stairs.